time here.
Sure. It's my little microphone. So we're going to get going here in just about a minute, but I just want to thank everybody for coming. There's lots of people on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We have some guys here as well. So we actually got a pretty good group watching right now. But this year's Len Charlebois, and very good woodworker. You've been woodworking for a lot of years, and you're going to be doing some sharpening.
How to sharpen stuff.
Exactly. So you get a variety of things to sharpen here. So we'll get right into it here.
Sounds good.
And thank you guys all for coming. All right.
Yep.
Go ahead, Len.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world today. I'm glad you're here. And thanks, Larry. I'm going to be talking about, well, they say it's a girl's best friend, diamonds. But I found that I really like them too. So I'm going to explain, there's two different kinds of diamonds that are used for sharpening, industrial diamonds. One is a monocrystalline, and the other one is a polycrystalline. Now, the polycrystalline is a softer diamond, and what happens is, as you sharpen, it breaks off little pieces of the diamond to give you a fresh edge. But the problem is, they wear out. And usually when you're pricing out diamond sharpening and stuff, you'll find that they're probably a little bit cheaper, usually quite a bit cheaper. Now, the monocrystallines are very specific. I'm going to show you a picture. Ethan, you want to go to the side camera here? And what it is if you look at this picture right here, you'll see that they're very consistent. And what they've done is they've graded them and made them to the point that they can actually put what they say on the stone. And that's what you're going to have. So if you have a 300 grit diamond stone, and it's made of that crystalline, it's going to stay there. It's going to be 300 for right through. With the ones that break, that changes. So it goes either coarser or lighter, whatever happens to be the side of that diamond right now. But with these monocrystallines, they stay consistent. And that's usually where you're going to find the diamond stones are going to be more expensive. The other thing to consider is what they're mounted on. Trend has mounted all theirs on a solid steel base. And if you look at that, it's very thick, it's heavy. They stay where you want them. And it makes a big difference because they're machined at about 2,000 variants over the full length of it. Where the other ones that are mounted on plastic, or sometimes you'll have some kind of substrate and then you're getting like a crisscross with diamonds on the crisscrosses, they're a little bit cheaper. And there's a reason for that. They can delaminate. These here are electroplated. They're not going to come off. And they just stay consistent. Now, I used to use one of these. I think we all have one. And the only problem is, and I probably can't show this on, I can see light through there. So from the top to the bottom, right in the middle, there's light. And the same on this side, there's light. And I don't think the camera is going to pick it up, but there is light because this hollows out. And what you do is you have to get it flattened again. So you got to figure out some way to flatten these out. A lot of people buy diamond stones because they're flat, and then they end up flattening their stone. I got to the point where I didn't want to do that anymore. All I wanted to do was use these. These stay flat. I don't have to worry about it yet. And when you're trying to sharpen with these with a little bit of dish here, and on your chisel, you're going to take the corners off them, and it just rounds them off, and it's no good. So I end up using this for small stuff or whatever, but usually that stays on the shelf. And then I go to this. Now it comes in all kinds of different grits. Trend basically does all of them. They run from 300 or 180, 600, 300, 1,000, and you can mix and match, use whatever you need. 180s, they will take off steel quite a bit, quite quickly. Now, just before I start, I was using these on the weekend, and just to show you how to clean them, it's easy. This has been used, and all you need is an eraser. That trend comes, they come with the kits, but even if you wear them out, there's other ways of doing it, but it's an eraser. And basically it just takes the material off, and now you're right back to where you want it to be. I'm going to get a dirty one there. Yeah. Just show you the difference. That's how easy it is to clean them. I usually clean them when I start, because when the oil's on there and you're trying to get it off when you finish, it's just going to smear. So you just put it back in the shelf or whatever. Next time you're going to sharpen, clean them off, and then you can start up again. They will be cleaner. Now, there's all kinds of tools that you can do. Planes, chisels, Forstner bits, hand chisels, carving tools. They all work. You can sharpen them on these. If you have a big nick on them, take it to a grinder, get it off. For a hand chisel, yeah. Now, if you see this, I've flattened the bottom here, but there's still a hollow here. That's okay, as long as you have a straight edge across the front where you're going to be using it, that's what you need. Then on the front, what you want is to get that flat, and you can go to various, whether you want it like a coarse sharp or a fine sharp, or whether you want a polished edge on that. You can do it all, depending on what you want to use it for. What I'm going to do is just show you quickly how to use this. You can do it basically on a table. They come with a little pad that you can put down here, and it works. I like using a holder. That's only because it lifts it off the table so that when I'm trying to do this part, I don't have my hand. I got some clearance here. And that lets my hand follow this here. And the one thing I'm going to warn you about, don't put pressure on. You don't need it. They're very aggressive. I'm not even going to start with the 180. I'm going to do 600 here just to show you what's going on. Use a little bit of lapping fluid on it. Going to get this out of my way. Put that down there. Put one finger just so that you're not going to get it tipping on you. And then just run it back and forth. You can use circles any way you feel comfortable. Don't get white knuckles. If you get white knuckles, you're pushing too hard on it. They are aggressive enough, and you will find when you get a new stone, it'll sound different. It'll be coarser because there's a little bit of random stone on there that will come off after first couple uses, and you will find that the middle of your stone will be a lot smoother and it'll almost float. Now the black that's coming up here, that's actually steel coming off the back of this here. That's why I wore this. And which one there? And you can see how shiny that is getting now. This steel will come off. A little more lapping fluid. Don't use water. This substrate is a steel. So if there's any water that happens to get through the nickel plating, it'll rust under here and that'll lift this. So if you use this, it's a very light oil. Trend throws it in a lot of their kits for sharpening. Use that. That'll keep this almost brand new. As you use these, you will find out that the ends are going to sound a little bit different. And that's only because we're using the middle most of the time. Don't be afraid to get into the edges because it's flat right straight across, not like an oil stone where you're going to get cupping. So you can use this area just as well as this area and this area. But we have a tendency always going to the center. But don't be scared. You can use that. Now, that flattens out your back. You can use it for any kind of chisel that you have. You can probably see that one. I've just shined it up a little bit. Yep.
Change it or?
No, that's okay. Okay. There it is. Same thing, flat back. And that black that's coming off here, that's actually the steel coming off the back of that. Now, some people like to use freehand for sharpening their edges. once you take it to the grinder and get a nice edge on it, most of the time it'll be a convex. And you want to get to do it freehand, one thing not to do. Don't do full length. As soon as you go full length, you're going to rock the back of that, and that's going to round out your edge. Use an inch and a half of your stone. It doesn't matter what part. Find your sweet spot. You'll feel it where it's flat, and then just use your stone back and forth. And you will see the oil will move in the front of that right here. That's, you're flat on your stone right now. There you are. And you'll see that the shiny on right on the edge there. Same with this one here. You just, if you're not comfortable doing this, there's Trend makes, and it comes in one of the kits. It's actually a gauge, and it's marked with your angles that you want, 25, 30, 35, or 40, whatever you want on the front of your chisel. I usually go to around the 30 myself, but some people like a little bit shallower, and they'll go 25. Just find your sweet spot right there, back and forth. That'll give you the steel coming off your chisel, and you will get a nice shiny edge on that. If you have, let me see, knives, you can do the same thing. Just if you have a knife that is a little bit dull or whatever, most of the knives you don't want to get a razor edge on. You want a coarse edge. So if you go to like the 600 grit, that's going to be good enough. If you want to be able to shave with that, then go to the 1000. The 1000 stone will, what is it, 25 microns, I think it is. It's very fine. So you'll be able to get really, really sharp if that's what you want, where you can actually take the hair off the back of your hand. I don't usually do that because I don't use it for carving or what. So I just, a rough edge, usually around a 600, that works. Plane items. Vic gave me one of these. He's going to let me play with it. And also, just if you have a new plane or whatever and you want to check it out, these stones are really good for flattening out the bottom. You've got that full surface there, and it's true. So you would be able to take this right down to what, I haven't checked this one. I'm going to let Vic talk about that, but this looks like it's pretty true, so I won't bother. But the same thing with your irons. You want to get that flat bottom on the back. And as you use these stones, you'll find out that they get nice. Like with the oil on there, it almost feels like it's floating. So you don't have to sit there and really put the pressure down. And when it's floating, don't worry about it. If you see black coming up on the stone, you know that steel's coming off. There's,
Oh, I changed camera.
Okay. A little bit right in there. It's already starting. See it there? Yeah, there it goes. Then once you get that where you get it straight across, this one is actually pretty good. Same thing, find that sweet spot. Use about an inch and a half. That's about all you need. And don't be afraid to use the ends of these, because it doesn't matter. They're all flat down to like 2000, I think it's the paperwork they're saying. And we're getting a little bit of shiny right straight across there. I'm going to put it back in. These are new to me. They're
Yeah,
nice.
you haven't played with them
I haven't
much
seen
yet.
them yet.
I should have let you have a little bit of time to.
Play around with it.
Yeah.
There we go. It's not in there right. There it goes.
There we go. You got her.
There it is.
Oopsies.
See if it works.
Oh,
I was lucky.
wow.
They come out nice. There. That's how fast those work.
Do that one more time. I'll change the view here.
Oh, you want to
Yeah.
see another curl?
Just from another angle. Wow.
Can't complain about that. Now, this is an old Stanley that I got from a farmer, actually. I'd sharpened it up, but how nice these actually put an edge on these. This is probably a plane from the 1940s. And we're getting that kind of curl on them too. Same thing, I flattened it out on this. Did the sides a little bit to get rid of some of the rust in that. And then took this apart and redid the iron. And so that's older than I am. Not saying something. Now, if you have turning tools, I know we have a turner over here. If you just want to touch up your edges once in a while, instead of going back to the grinder, you can use, Trend came out with these cards, and they call them credit cards, something, but they fit in your pocket nice. I should have taken them out. But they come in different configurations, 3, 6, up to the 1,000 again. If you want to touch up your edge a little bit, put a little bit of lapping fluid on it. It's under here. Spread it around, and what you do is, that's good. You find your flat spot on your turning tool.
Oh, sorry, you're one.
That's okay. And then once you found it, do little circles. Keep it flat against the edge. And then that'll bring your edge up again so that you can get in there. And there's actually a wire on there now so that you can get in there and just start turning instead of going back to your grinder. Because sometimes you'll change your setup if you have one grinder for what you just slash sharpened and you have to go back to this, and that's a different setup. This will get you back turning real quick. The same thing with your gouges. Just lay it flat. You can see what you got just on the edge there and do circles. Because it's laying flat on there, you'll be able to follow the contour and get the edge up nice. And then Trend has these little fingernail, no, not fingernail, tapered files, yeah. And then you can just touch the inside if you want to get rid of that wire on the inside. If you have Forstner bits, we all have them. There's always edges that have to be sharpened. Usually there's a flat edge here, there's a face on it, and you have all these nice little teeth, and they get dull. If you use one of these taper files, you can actually lay it right on the flat, give it a touch up, right here on this cutting edge. You can touch that up again. And then for your teeth, you use the flat side and do all the front of the teeth. These come in just one grit. So whatever grit that is, I think it looks like
300 or 600. I'm not sure.
I think it's more of 300. But that gives you it gives you the sharp edge again. If you just want to feel this later on, this one's a little bit sharper than this one because that's the ones I just touch up. And then just touch up your point a little bit, and then they will start cutting better. Forstner bits are good. Router bits. You got router bits that need to be sharpened. Only do the flat side. Don't touch this profile or the outside. And that's the same with the Forstner bits. Don't sharpen this edge because that changes the diameter of your bit, right? And now it's not going to be the same. But on the inside is a bevel, and you can use this to just touch up that bevel on these points, and then you'll be able to use it. But do not touch this outside. Same with the router bits. If you're using the flat, that puts your edge back on the front of your router bit. You can use these cards because they stay nice and flat. And when you're looking at this, you see the black on here, that's actually carbide coming off. Now, if you have a helical head on a planer or a joiner,
Or a turning tool.
now the turning tools too, you can sharpen them on with these. All you do is put it on the flat, run it around, whether they're HSS or carbide, it doesn't matter. And then that will put an edge back on the top of your insert. And then you don't have to buy a whole new set. Now, if it's nicked, you're not going to be able to get rid of that. But if you just need to resharpen, clean them. Trend makes a really good cleaner. I've used about 4 or 5 different kinds. Trend has got one, it goes on a couple of minutes. You can start taking off all the pits and stuff like that. It cleans them up nice. And then you can get in and sharpen them. Same with router bits. You just sprayed it on, clean it up a little bit, and then you can get your cards in there, lay it flat. And if you have a bearing that gets in the way, just take the bearing off. And then you'll be able, because they usually have a pretty good purchasing area, so you can keep them flat. And that'll put an edge on the outside here again. If you have carving tools. Now, usually carving tools, once you sharpen them, they're pretty sharp. But as you use them, you lose the edge here. Now, if you use compounds, like once you can run them on the stones, get the edge back if you need to. And that's just got the edge. But then you finish them up with the compounds. This green one transcends cells, and I used to know what that was, but I don't anymore. But you just pass it back and forth.
Is that a strop you're using?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, got it.
Yep, it's a leather strap. I like using the rough side because then it holds the polishing compounds and stuff a lot better than this side. But you just run it back and forth. Starts getting shiny on you. There you are. And then if you want to use this diamond paste, which this is basically a diamond powder, put it on your strap. Now you notice that it's changing colors. Can you see that there? It's going black. That's basically the steel coming off the tool. And where you are, there you are. How shiny that's got. And if you want to check the edge, I'm not going to because I'll probably cut myself. But that edge will be able to carve wood again. And you can use it for, that's another, who's the other one? Yeah.
Skew somewhere.
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Same thing with skew. Just this one, yours done? Yeah.
Are you using lapping fluid there?
Yes, I have lapping fluid on it. Don't use them dry. Lapping fluid makes it so much easier.
You got about 5 minutes left.
5 minutes? Okay, I'm just gonna touch this up. I know. Don said I had to try this.
Well, that's fine.
And if you could probably see how it's starting to get a shine on it now. That's with 600. And then just run it on the compound. Just that quick, you can see the shines going on there and the edge is back on that. So that kind of runs through a few things. Due to time, we're probably not going to cover everything, but any questions right now?
Are you not going with a micro bevel?
I don't use a micro bevel because as your micro bevel works down, eventually got to resharpen it anyways. So I have a tendency of just using the same angle and then just come back with a quick touch up and then back I go. With the micro bevel, you got to remember what the micro bevel is, whether you were 2 or 3 degrees to get it back there. And then you got to just keep following that until the point you're going to have to get it back down to get it flat again. So I don't use micro bevels. I like a sharp edge, so I usually keep them. Answer you okay?
It did. Well, you know, back a few years ago, there was no such thing as a micro bevel.
Right.
That is the only way you'd find a sharp.
Right.
And I inherited a whole bunch of really neat old tools from an uncle, and none of them had micro bevels on it. So
Yeah. It was kind of a thing. It started a trend and it's kind of stayed, but you get both sides of the schooling. Some like it and some don't. Personally, I don't use it, but there are people that swear by it, and
well,
whatever works for you works.
well, I was going to say that those that swear by it say it's much easier to sharpen that very narrow part of the blade than it is the whole blade.
Yeah. But I find that once it gets a little bit dull and I go back to the same angle, it doesn't take that long either.
Sure, it didn't seem to take me very long.
Now, Trend has a bunch of different kits that they have, and depending what you want to get, they have card kits. They have the full size kits. They've got a smaller stones too, and usually they come with instructions. This one comes with actually the honing guide, which I use sometimes to get things started, and then go back and then just quick touch-ups. They've also got a big kit, which gives you a couple different stones and gives you lapping fluid and the polishing and the honing and the leather. Kind of gives you the whole thing to get you started. So depending on what kind of woodworking you're doing, whether you're using a lot of hand tools or you're turning or you're using chisels a lot, will probably guide you to what you need, whether you need a full-size sharpening stone or whether you want to go to cards. These come in handy because you can just throw them in your pocket and they're there, and if you're walking around the shop, you don't go, where did I leave that? So that kind of comes in handy. They come in different sizes, so you can kind of play around and find out what's good for you and then use that. But with diamond stones, I know some people talk about water stones. If you've got a heated shop, that's good. But if you don't have a heated shop, don't keep your water stones in there. Oil stones, same thing. They hollow out a little bit, and then they're not working as good. With diamond stones, they're flat. And there's a bunch of stuff out there. Some cheaper, some more expensive. You'll probably find the more expensive ones will last you a lot longer. I've been using this for demonstrations and stuff 5 years now.
At least, yep.
And these are as good as they were the first time I used them.
They're using at home, of course, too.
Oh yeah, I use it in my own shop. Plus with the demonstrations of that, I use all this stuff at home too. So for longevity, I like them because they're staying flat. They don't wear out, and they're probably going to outlast me, and I'll be passing them on to somebody else someday. But hopefully that's kind of answered a bunch of questions. And if you want to talk to me a little bit later about stuff, I think Vic's next, and I'm going to get my stuff out of here and then give him a couple of minutes to set up.
Len, that was great. Thank you so much for doing that. Now, one thing I wanted to mention for the folks that are watching on YouTube here, the live is going to end and it's going to restart in about 15 minutes. So don't be surprised if you get kicked off. Just wait, get a drink, go to the bathroom, and it'll restart shortly here, just so I can keep things separate on YouTube. As far as Instagram and TikTok goes, the live will just continue. And people that are in person, you're not going to get kicked off either. So, thanks, Len.
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay.
We don't need to put. I gotta end the live
Half
here.
hour is not long enough.
No, I got. Sorry, Len.
Yeah. With sharpening, you can talk all day, no sharpening.
Exactly. These are not mine.
No, live is over. Okay.
They're Jill's.